So, we have a Patreon listener question from our Patreon member, Thomas, and he asks, what is your favorite Ultra Magnus figure? Now, this comes in the rise of Siege now being a toy line that's slowly starting to show up in different locations. It's a 2019 toy line, but it's slowly starting to break its street dates in certain locations in the United States, and Ultra Magnus being one of the leader class toys in that, giving us a brand new Ultra Magnus figure. But Thomas here wants to know, what is your favorite Ultra Magnus figure of all time? We're going to kind of also branch off from this. We'll list a few, but we'll also list some third-party ones because Ultra Magnus has an important history with third-party. So we'll kind of go into that. Wendell, give it a shot. What do you got?
Okay. So I was just thinking to myself which ones I liked, and I was like, oh, man, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought to myself, oh, right. RID, Robots in Disguise, from the early 2000s, Ultra Magnus. That's one of my favorites, official side. And then also I'm going to say Legend/Generation Leader Class Ultra Magnus, the one where it was so weird. Around that time in particular, there was General's, what's his name? Leader Stacks?
Okay, yeah.
Third party Stacks, but then there was also the Masterpiece Ultra Magnus came out around that same time. So it was just super weird that you had really 3 different accurate Ultra Magnuses coming out at the same time. But for me, I still have them like close by. It would definitely be Generations Leader Class Ultra Magnus. That would definitely hit that accurate G1 TV show version of Ultra Magnus for me specifically. And I liked how he transformed and how you managed to still get the shoulder stacks and then the little arm missiles and everything, and his legs kind of did that the back trailer thing and everything like that. For RID,
did you get the Legends version or the
Generations one I had?
The Generations one, okay.
Yeah. That's the one I had. So it came with the little white car. I forgot what was his name.
Minimus Ambus. That's why,
Yeah.
because the Legends version, they made it Alpha Trion.
No.
With the Generations version, it's based off of the IDW Minimus Ambus character. But yeah. Anyways, continue, yeah.
So that one I felt like was a really cool version, and the fact that the guns that he came with turned into the hammer, so it's also playing off of the what was it, the
animated
slash, well, was it an animated and Prime came with a hammer too? No,
Transformers Animated was the first one to really establish Ultra Magnus having a hammer.
Yeah,
because it was the Magnus hammer and it was like a leader kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when Optimus Prime kind of assumed leadership of the Autobots at the end of Transformers Animated, he has the hammer,
mm-hmm.
which kind of is that signification of leadership. It was a bleed over into Transformers Prime afterwards that, Ultra Magnus equals hammer. You know what I mean?
So I thought that was a pretty cool play style that they had with it, and just like kind of giving a nod to like all things Ultra Magnus. And then also with RID Ultra Magnus, I think that was the first Ultra Magnus I've actually owned. I got to play with only the repaint of. No, wait, that's not true. But anyway. I got to play with the repaint of Optimus Prime, the white Ultra Magnus, back in the day, but I don't think he had his trailer with it. So I was like, oh, it's a weird white Ultra Magnus. That's super. A white Optimus Prime is very weird. But that's what I have to say for official. Should I go into third party, or are we going to go back
third
and
party?
Forth?
Go into third party.
So for third party, I am definitely going to say Fans Project City Commander TFX01, the trailer set. That was definitely one of my favorite Ultra Magnuses before we actually got the official one. And
just to jump in, and a very historically important third-party release, because it was Fans Project's really the start of third-party getting recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Third party at that point, and I believe it was, I want to say 2007 at the time, 2006. Third party had been around, but mostly in the Japanese scene and in Wonderfest and everything. And then City Commander comes out, and it just becomes this blockbuster thing that I honestly don't know a single person that was a hardcore collector in 2006 that didn't have a City Commander. Like it was the third party toy to own. And then everything it established Fans Project to what it is today as the head third party company, like the gold standard pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But as you were continue, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And then also, I want to give a shout out to the Fans Project TFX07 Blue Armor. So that's basically, you're taking the same Ultra Magnus Chug toy and then putting it with a new armor that goes over everything, and he comes out looking even cooler and even a little bit different from before. But I know this particular toy came. This particular add-on set took a while for it to come out. It got canceled, if I remember right, and then it came back. It came back from the dead, and they actually went through with it. An honorable mention for the official one is Fall of Cybertron Ultra Magnus. I'm going to give a little nod to that one just because I thought that one was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a good toy.
And I think that's it.
I'm just gonna I'll start obviously I just want to just go. One of my first memories with Ultra Magnus toys was when I was a kid. I remember looking at the instruction, not the instruction manual, but the catalog that came with the 1986 toys. And one of my neighbors, he just had the catalog, and I don't know how he got it because he didn't have any 1986 figures. He had Astro Train and G1 Optimus Prime, but he had the catalog for 1986, and I remember seeing Ultra Magnus in the catalog and looking at the white Optimus Prime and then looking at the robot mode and going how the heck does this transform? How does this white Optimus Prime end up becoming this giant armor? I didn't understand the concept of a shell former and armor and stuff like that. I was I think I was 7 or 6 at the time when I saw this catalog, but that always was something. It was one of my earliest memories of Ultra Magnus as a toy. And then finally, years later, getting the G1 Ultra Magnus toy, and I've always been fascinated with it. And just the whole fact that when it was known as Powered Convoy in Diaclon, how it was just supposed to be this powered up version of Convoy of Battle Convoy. And he was just an army of them, that the humans controlled and everything. And he had his own little roller, which didn't come out with Ultra Magnus yet. It was called Powered Buggy, which was it's his own roller. But when they released it over here, they didn't include it with Ultra Magnus. If I had to pick my favorite, that's a real tough one because there's a lot of really good Ultra Magnus toys, a lot. And
it's weird because I feel like they all came out around the same time.
Yeah,
it's like when they cracked the code, they're like, all right, and then it just kept going and kept going and kept going.
There was that point, like I said, when Dreamwave reminded everyone, there's a white Optimus Prime under there. Yeah. Everyone just kind of started doing that for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of those, and it just became where it's hey, you have an Optimus Prime toy repainted as Ultra Magnus, and it became that. And to me, I think some of my favorite Ultra Magnus toys are the ones that weren't Optimus Prime repaints.
Exactly.
I think I remember the Titanium series. They did a 6-inch line, and that was the first time we had an Ultra Magnus toy that transformed into his traditional G1 look, but wasn't a separate robot. The trailer and the front cab transformed together to make one robot. There wasn't that individual separation there. Mm-hmm. And that was a Don Figueroa design for the Titanium series. And it's a little tougher to get today, that figure, because it was the last line. I think it came out in 2006 or 2007. And again, within that line, they did white Ultra Magnus repaints of Optimus Prime too. So there's a lot of that. I mean, the thing is that there's some really good white Ultra Magnus repaints that are great toys. There's this, they took Big Convoy, repainted it as Ultra Magnus, and they called it Ultra Mammoth, and it looks spectacular. The paint is incredible on that. The matrix that comes with it looks amazing. But it's like, but it's still like just a white repaint in the end. It's absolutely great. It's a great toy and it looks amazing, but it's like, it's so typical of that kind of, hey, it's, white repaint Optimus Prime or leader kind of thing. I do agree with you about the Combiner Wars Leader Class one that came out in Generations.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that Ultra Magnus figure. I liked that it did what the IDW comics was kind of doing at the time. I don't want to spoil too much, but based off of the Nick Roche design from the More Than Meets the Eye comic books. So I really think that's pretty cool.
How does that toy compare to the Masterpiece Ultra Magnus?
Well,
though? Do they have like very similar transformations, or is it very vastly different?
Let's put it this way: the Nick Roche one, because it had to have that, let's call it power mecha armor gimmick, right? Where you have the little pilot and stuff.
Yeah.
There's some transformation differences there, but oddly enough, even including that mecha power armor gimmick, there's a lot of similarities in the transformation. Pretty much what the Masterpiece does is it essentially takes that cab, if you will, and tucks it in the exact same place. It just tucks it in better. It just goes like, hey, maybe we could, really put it in there and put it in the chest, and we could still have like the Matrix gimmick. We could still have the Matrix stored in the chest. And I mean, in all honesty, from what Masterpiece tried to do with Ultra Magnus that second time around, not the white repaint of MP01, but MP22, I feel that it's probably, honestly, the most show-accurate Ultra Magnus. Like, for what it tried to do, it really hits it on the nose. It really, especially like 1986 movie Robert Stack Ultra Magnus. I feel that it gets it right, and it does a very good job at it. And it has different facial expressions and stuff. And again, I really like that one too. But it's so tough for me to decide because like I have like almost everything that has his name on it. I have like I have even like the weird PVC stuff when they did the Revoltech Ultra Magnus, which was another great little figure. It's really tough for me to decide because there's a lot of really good ones. But I do agree with you with that Generations one, whether it be the Legends version or the Generations Combiner Wars version. It was really good. They did a repaint of Laser Rod Optimus Prime as Laser Rod Ultra Magnus. That was a Generation 2 eHobby exclusive. If you ever see that one, it's gorgeous. It looks great. Again, it's a white repaint, but it looks great. It's using that Scourge Black Convoy kind of mold, and it looks spectacular. There's just so many. And again, like going into third party, like you mentioned before, City Commander is just a staple. You know what I mean? It's just such a staple and such an important piece of third party history, and just the fact that that Ultra Magnus toy and that Skywarp that came packed with it increased significantly in value the second that third party set came out. So it was, I think that, that Classics Ultra Magnus Skywarp 2-pack that was a Target exclusive was the first time that a toy increased in value because of a third-party influence. Yeah. It had nothing to do with a toy being rare. The funny thing is that Ultra Magnus Skywarp 2-pack, it actually went on clearance at one point at Target before the third-party set actually came out, and then all of a sudden the value just skyrocketed, and that was a whole other story. But either way, I just want to think of one more, a weird one to just mention. I'm just kind of looking around my room and just going
I thought you would have been really goofy and been that Transformer pen that came out.
I don't know. It's just,
I thought you would have gone that way, that complete route of just being silly. That repaint of that Optimus Prime pen that transforms into a kind of pen, but it turns into a really cool figure. that.
You know what? Like you mentioned before, the character of God Magnus, which became Ultra Magnus in
Yep.
the localization of car robots as robots in disguise. That was a really unique toy. It really was like, up to that point and really, you know, Ultra Magnus has always been like, oh, it's an Optimus Prime repaint or it's an Optimus Prime repaint in spirit, and this was something that really was its own thing. It really was 100% its own thing, and had a combiner feature and stuff like that, and was a very large toy too. I like that one also. That one's more nostalgia because I have a deep connection to car robots, and it was a series that I valued a lot in my college years when it came out.
I think that's I would assume that's a show that I guess a lot of us that we completed the Beast Wars and Beast Machines like arcs, and then we're like, oh man, it'd be cool to go back to cars, and we got cars. But the bad guys were still animals, but there were cool repaints of all these other animals we haven't really seen within the context of the shows.
Yeah.
So I think that was what, and then, you get that really nice repaint of, like you mentioned, G2 Optimus Prime, the laser rod as Scourge. Like there's a lot of good molds that came out of that series too.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think that it's just it combined with the fact that it was that mysterious like Japanese toys from the other side of the ocean, while at the time we were still in that Beast Machines phase at the tail end of it, and yet here this was going on in Japan and in 2000.
Well, it's weird. Well, it was kind of, how would I put it? Wasn't it kind of between Beast Wars Neo and stuff like that? So some of the repaints we're getting is Beast Wars Neo stuff? No, not really. Kinda.
Well, what it was is the we'll call it the Death Strongers, as the Japanese version referred to it as. Everyone with the exception of Gigatron, aka Megatron, was a repaint of something from the past. So all the beasts were Transmetal 2s that were repainted.
Yeah.
So like you had Gusher, Gasher, and
Skybite.
Skybite, which was known as Gel Shark. All repaints of Beast Wars Transmetal 2s. Then you had, again, like you mentioned, Black Convoy, which became Scourge and stuff like that in America. Again, repaint of laser rods. And then you had Valdigus, which was just Bruticus repainted and brought to the modern era. And I mean, when they did Robots in Disguise and they brought over the whole line here, they continued that trend of using pre-existing toys and repainting them and putting them into the line. But I mean, that God Magnus, that Ultra Magnus toy, it just had like that, again, that Japanese import mystique to it for the longest time, because Beast Machines was happening in 2000, and in Japan, Car Robots was happening in 2000. And it was just like, you had Beast Machines, which was like meh to some people, and Car Robots that just was this like everything what everyone wanted at the time in terms of returning to vehicles and stuff. And that was a really good toy. So I mean, if I had to pick one,
ooh, good luck.
I know that's what makes it, like, again, if I'm not gonna say masterpiece stuff.
Okay, you're making it hard for yourself. That's why
I'm not gonna count that. Because that's kind of the easy answer a lot of times, because when you have the budget and the money to go along with it.
Yeah.
I'll lean more towards, until I mess with the Siege Ultra Magnus, which I haven't yet, which is kind of, and the funny thing is the Siege Ultra Magnus that will be coming out this year and next year, it kind of homages both G1 and God Magnus from Car Robots.
Exactly.
It's kind of a fusion of the two.
Yeah, we talked about it the last time we were watching all those figures and like just commenting
all the reveals.
on everything.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that I think I'm gonna go with Generations Ultra Magnus for now. If I had to pinpoint it, maybe I'll go with the Legends one because it comes with Alpha Trion. But I also like the Generations one because if you're an IDW fan, it has Minimus Ambus. They both are good for different reasons. They're both interesting for different reasons. But I'll go with that one, with God Magnus from Car Robots being a close second, until I finally get the mess with Siege and then I'll be able to kind of have a better idea of it. Maybe
So yours is the reverse of mine. Mine is RID first, and then Generation second.
And again, it's tough because there's so many white repaints, like just tons of them. I like the animated one, but it's just, there's so many other toys in that line that are just as awesome. I wasn't a big, I'm not saying the toys are crap, but I wasn't like crazy sold over on the Prime Ultra Magnus and his toys. But, and not to mention some of those, oddly enough, were repaints of Optimus Prime. No surprise. They were repaint retools. So it's just, to me, I'm going to go with the original molds, the stuff that really was their own things and that really blazed their own kind of story and their own kind of fiction within those toys, in those two, until Siege comes out locally here, and we'll be able to give our opinion of that. I actually can't wait until we do our best of 2018, because it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, those are my two answers. So I guess that's that. So thanks for the question, Thomas, and hopefully we'll get some more from Patreon in the future.